Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hai, welcome back to my channel. Kali ini saya ingin berbagi cerita saat berkunjung di Philadelphia, Amerika Serikat. Philadelphia adalah kota terbesar di negara bagian Pennsylvania, Amerika Serikat. Meskipun bukan merupakan ibu kota negara bagian, Philadelphia merupakan salah satu kota paling bersejarah di Amerika.
Folks, as you can tell, we're very much in the old city section of Philadelphia. Old city, where all the old stuff is. Bikers. But yes, old city. Right next to the Delaware River, because the Delaware River is how everything used to come and go into town from. Back before we had highways and airports and all that fun sort of stuff to get the 13 stars in a circle flag. That's her house right there, just past this tree. And of course, one can go through there, take a tour, learn all about Betsy's life, her times, her various husbands, a distinctly non-zero number of which were pirates. Yeah, she had a heck of a life, didn't she? But of course, I said she made the first well-known flag, not the first flag we had. That is because, well, that's the technicality of it. Betsy Ross did not make the first flag used by Continental Army soldiers. There were others in service before that, but hers was the one that got the most widely known and widely used, and so that is the one we learned about in grade school. And of course, over on the left we have the Quaker Meeting House, where the Quakers, of whom the founder William Penn was one, can go to meet and discuss the matters of the day and also hold their worship ceremonies. And on the right we have this big old bust of Ben Franklin at the firehouse, because Ben started one of the first fire companies. Now, if you look at that statue, you may notice it has a bit of a texture to it. It is made of donated keys and pennies. Keys, of course, for Franklin's famous key and kite lightning experiment. Pennies, because of that old phrase of his, a penny saved is a penny earned. Which, speaking of pennies, we're back at the mint up ahead of us. And you know what that means, folks. Ben Franklin's grave is coming up on the next block. Firehouse here, like I said, exists because Ben Franklin started one of the first fire companies, and I will elaborate on that. See, back in the day, fire companies were literally that, companies. It was not a public service that did the firefighting. It was not public services, it was private businesses did that. And you'd hang up a plaque about the size of a dinner plate on the front of your house to show which company you had bought your fire insurance from. So, and you did that because whenever fire broke out, whichever company got there first, usually after beating the tar out of the others to get there first. On the grave there, people like to leave pennies on his grave for luck. Again, because of that phrase of his, a penny saved, a penny earned. Imagine being so clever, sending money 200 years after you're dead. Now, of course, Ben isn't alone there. He's buried next to his wife with his daughter, his son, one of his sons, but not the other son. Why not? Because the other son sided with the English, so they never really spoke again after that. As the foremost place to learn about the foundational documents of the United States. And sorry folks, but walking up, this is not a public tour, it is a private run. Now, of course, you can go there and learn all about the Constitution, the people who made it what it is, the amendments made to it over the years. You can even get your own little copy of the Constitution, which I feel like that would have saved Nick Cage a lot of effort that one time. Unfortunately for him, it wasn't open yet. As I said, it's only about 10 years old, and it's weird to me because we didn't have a National Constitution Center anywhere before this thing. folks, over on the side here we have the Federal Reserve. Now, they're not always open for tours, but when they are, you can go through on a tour of the entire process of taking old money out of circulation. If you go through that tour, you'll come out with a nice little souvenir, a little baggie full of $100. Shredded. It's always something with the feds, isn't it? But still, a nice tour that teaches you a bit about how an economy works. And of course, across the way from that, we have the African American Museum in Philadelphia. Definitely a lovely place that'll give you a different perspective on American history, I find. And out front, it has multiple permanent art exhibits, such as those black poles there. And from those poles hang 13 silent bells, symbolic, of course, of the silent struggle of African Americans going all the way back to the 13 colonies. Definitely, like I said, a museum that'll give you a different perspective on things, I think. And next to that, a parking lot. And over on the other side, another parking lot, this one much prettier. It was built after they passed a law saying if you use public money for your construction, you have to put some of it towards public beautification. Which, I think that worked out well. Also, folks, on that note, I would advise you to keep your eyes open, not just on this tour, but your entire time here in town. Philadelphia is sometimes known as the largest open-air art gallery because of the sheer number of murals and statues throughout town available for the public to enjoy free of charge. I always say, if you go more than a mile in this town without seeing something interesting, you're probably doing donuts in an underground parking lot. And not even one of the nice ones. And speaking of parking lots, over on the right, another one. Who says you can't park in this town? This one with those 4 Chinese bronze dragons out front. How you know they're Chinese? The claws. Yeah, 4 claws, so the Chinese are all very specific with the dragon morphology of East Asian countries, according to what I've read. And that, of course, marks our entrance to Philadelphia's Chinatown, which, at 7 city blocks, is the second largest Chinatown in the United States, second only to San Francisco over on the West Coast. Now get your cameras ready, folks, and point them to the right, because on the next cross street we are coming to the Chinatown Friendship Gate, and you will want a photo. But it looks like we got the red light, so I got a chance to talk about it a bit more. So, Philly's Chinatown started up during the railroad boom of the 1800s. Many Chinese persons came to the United States to work on the railroads, earn some cash, and then go back home, have a bit of a better time of it. But many of them came over here and worked on the rails, only to find that, well, you know, there's a bit of space to expand out into. There's a few more opportunities here than we might have back home. So many of them decided to stay in the States and bring their families over and start anew. Now, most of them, of course, stayed on the West Coast, but some did come over to the east side here. And there it is, folks, the Chinatown Friendship Gate. Beautiful, isn't it? That is what they call, by the way, a freestanding structure, which, if you're not familiar, means there's nothing holding that thing together. No pins, nails, screws, staples, tape, gum, nothing but the pure craftsmanship of the pieces holds them together. Which is really impressive to me, because I can't make a Jenga tower go up more than a couple of inches. Yeah, there's a reason I didn't go into engineering. And up ahead you may notice the building with the blue banner over there, the Pennsylvania Convention Center. It's a nice little place. First built back in '93, just a few months after I was. It was originally built for the Democratic National Convention, and it was expanded further to plow over a very popular farmers market that stood here in order to build their terminal. We said, you can't do that. We like those farmers markets. People, if you want to build here, you have to make somewhere for them to meet at. So they scratched their heads for a minute, decided the best way to do that would be to make a marketplace on the bottom floor and the train terminal up on top. Which, yeah, not exactly the best idea. Now, the Reading Railroad is defunct, but the Reading Market is still going strong to this day with some 30-odd different restaurants and shops inside, including some that are very old. For instance, they had the first ice cream store in America in there. Does anyone want to guess what flavor they sold? As folks, they used what they had nearby. Sweet New Jersey tomato ice cream was the flavor. And you could actually try that for yourself up until about 2 years ago when they took it off the menu. Now we turn past the Hard Rock back there onto Market Street, folks. One of the 2 great arteries of Philadelphia. Got Philadelphia's beautiful City Hall up ahead of us. That is what they call a masonry building, which, if you're not familiar with the term, means there's nothing holding it up. No steel girders behind those walls, folks. No iron beams under the floors. There is only stone and mortar, like the temples of old, and some 200 different sculptures and carvings all over the surface, all of which were done by the same guy, which someone explains why it took 30 years to build. The most notable statue on the building is the one up at the top of the clock tower there, Mr. William Penn, our founder. He's standing some 38 feet tall up there, several thousand pounds. If you need a hand with the scale, that railing he's standing above is in fact a fully enclosed observation deck. Now, I don't think it's open today, but some days you can go up there in a small rickety elevator and stand upright inside of that railing, looking out over the rooftops of our entire city. You may have noticed that William Penn up there is not exactly pointed north. He's a little off. There's two lines of thought on this. The official line on the matter is that he is facing north by northeast across the city towards Penn Treaty Park, the spot where he made his agreements with the local Native American peoples in order to be allowed to establish this colony city here. That's the official line. The more conspiracy-minded will instead say he is facing north by northeast across the street at the Masonic Temple, this building ahead of us. Meeting house of the Freemasons. Yes, the conspiracy theory ones. And the Masons, of course, being very involved in the construction of a masonry building. I'm not going to say that one or the other is definitively correct, but, he's still pointed in that direction either way.